He was backpedaling the whole time. Woman was violently shoved to the ground. He was shoved. He was pepper sprayed and then taken to the ground. If we're going to say that he was assaulting the police, I think that leads to more distrust of ICE. If you call this a good shooting, you aren't watching the video. This was a real tragedy and a mistake. The man had been disarmed and then was shot 10 times. I want ICE to do a good job. I want ICE to get rid of the violent people in our communities, but we can't have it if we say things like, oh yeah, well, he was an assassin and he was a domestic terrorist. If we say things that are obviously not true, the situation is going to get worse. It's important to know he didn't draw his weapon. They said he brandished his weapon. That is not true. If you keep saying things that are not true, you're going to encourage more of this crap. But on the other side, does Minnesota need to cooperate?
Yes.
Without question, the sanctuary city policy is part of the problem as well.
Yes. And I truly, honestly believe that the rhetoric that they have spun about these immigration enforcement actions that have been here for a long time and have taken place under Democrats, Republicans, the way they've talked about it is the reason that these people are dead.
We're going to discuss the question of whether or not filming someone, as I see is going on right now, whether that could be considered to be assault, whether retreating from ICE agents is considered to be assault, and whether or not filming and then retreating is an indication that you're a potential assassin. We can't just say, oh, nothing to see here, and he was obviously an assassin and a domestic terrorist. When we say things like that, it leads to no confidence in, so I think there really has to be an independent investigation, and this is going to be an investigation outside of DHS. They should themselves immediately appoint a commission. If they don't, I think Congress may do it. I don't think it's honest to say he brandished a weapon. I don't think it's honest to say he assaulted officers. Every American's seen this video now, or most have. Everybody was snowed in for 3 days. A lot of people have seen this video. At every point in the video, he retreats. At no point in time do I see an assault. And I don't think anybody in America believes he was assaulting those officers.
When one of the most craven right-wing politicians in the country, who fully supports Trump's mass deportation scheme, ICE as an institution, and is no friend to the left whatsoever, is on the correct side of an issue like this one, while being more than willing to openly criticize his party's attempts to gaslight the public and avoid any sort of accountability for the actions, you know our country is in a dark, dark place.
We have to hold the line. There can be no de-escalation at all. You don't need to bring down the temperature. Raise the temperature. Put them under pressure. They're the ones that are cracking. You blink now and you're going to blink forever. You bend the knee now, you'll bend the knee forever. If we stand in the breach and say, screw you, we're fighting for the country, right? And I don't care how many people I got to deport. I don't care. If the families are there and they're there illegally and we want to keep them together, guess what? You're going to have to round up some 5-year-olds with their parents.
Anytime I listen to Bannon speak, I want to vomit, right? Because he directly appeals to white supremacist beliefs, time in and time out. And then the other thing about these comments here, he's encouraging state-sanctioned violence. Encouraging state-sanctioned violence. How do you justify that? What is wrong with you to have that perspective? There's something seriously wrong with you. And these people, like Bannon, are the personification of evil. Like all day, all night. Evil individuals to be commenting in that manner.
He was a domestic terrorist dressed in the same color scheme as Border Patrol agents who did exactly what he set out to do. He blocked federal agents from carrying out the will of the voters and from performing the job they are obligated to do and have the authority to do. If in the chaos one of these people gets killed, guess whose fault it is? You go out onto the street with the express purpose of interfering with law enforcement and making things confusing and chaotic. If in the confusion and chaos you get killed, that's your fault. It's your fault. It's not only your fault, but you deserve it, okay? You deserved it. You quite literally had it coming.
I believe this was suicide by cop. Intentional martyrdom. The reason why I don't believe that, the reason why I'm saying this was suicide by cop, is that Renee Good was killed only a few weeks ago, and he knew it. He knew that if he engaged federal law enforcement with violence, especially while brandishing or holding a deadly weapon, they'd likely take his life. That was the scenario I believe he intended to create.
He wanted to be attacked. He repeatedly worked to create circumstances where he would be attacked. He did that while armed with a loaded gun he knew would raise the fear levels and the perceived threat levels by any officer with whom he came into contact. And then on top of that, once he got his wish and got attacked, he resisted the arrest both times. I mean, it's almost turning into a suicide by cop situation. I mean, like, if you wanted to die at the hands of a law enforcement officer, this would definitely be an avenue you could consider.
So this YouGov poll states that a majority of Americans say ISIS tactics are too forceful, and that half strongly disapprove of the way the agency is handling its job. And it shows you the tide is turning, right? Even though I would like that number to be more than half for people who disapprove of the way the agency is handling their job. But then I also am not surprised that in this poll, more Americans approve than disapprove of protests against ICE. Because you have to stand up to fascism. You have to stand up to people who are abusing their power. It's not something that is taken lightly, right? These people are putting their lives on the line, but I'm glad that the majority of Americans, more Americans, approve of these protests against ICE. The fact that things are leaning more towards people being on the right side of history when it comes to ICE and these protests, I'm pleased, right? But again, we have to show that out on the streets. You know, we have to show that with tangible action where it's going to make a difference. And it has shown up, right, in different ways where people, you know, round up, you know, they get their community, their neighborhood, and they see ICE coming. And when you have a large group of people, ICE, in some instances, is scared off. And they don't want to engage because they're outnumbered. And they go about their own way. Or especially when, you know, they're just in civilian gear. They're not with their badges or, you know, they're not with their law enforcement uniforms. You know, they don't want to be all these big macho individuals. I think right-wing media figures deliberately decided to push the narrative that Preddy and by extension all other people whom the government kills deserve it and are asking for it because that makes them sleep better at night. Because to them, if they're able to justify these killings, then they have no issue with what the government is doing. It's like, oh no, the government is protecting itself. The government is doing this to protect America, which it's not. But as long as it's in their mind that, oh, the law enforcement agencies, these law enforcement officers were justified, that they had probable cause to do this, then yeah, they deserved it, you know, because they were doing X, Y, Z. And again, it all comes down to, you know, being a challenger to authoritarianism, right? A challenger to fascism. That's what's happening here. And, you know, defending people and, you know, not bending the knee, not bowing down to law enforcement, you know, not bowing down to the government where they're trying to intimidate you to not, you know, respond and fight back with your words, right? What these right-wingers' reactions show is the type of country they're trying to create and live in. And that's one where the citizens of America should be terrified of government, especially law enforcement, where, yeah, if you defend somebody, if you're trying to get away of somebody being, you know, assaulted or what have you, then you're going to get killed and you're going to deserve it. At least that's their mindset, right? And it's gross to hear that coming out of their mouths. Like, yeah, they want the military, or they want, military type action against civilians. And it doesn't matter if you're an immigrant or citizens, right? Or, you know, if you're undocumented, right? If you came here legally, whatever, they'll find any reason to justify you getting killed. It's like, yeah, if you fight back, not even in a violent way, right? Like you putting hands on it. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you deserve to be killed. That's the country they're living in. I think Americans most Americans are showing up and being a threat or challenging, this fascist government and this secret police force that Donald Trump has carried out. But again, we need accountability. We need consequences for these individuals who are going around killing individuals for no reason. I mean, they'll have a reason, but there's no legitimate reason. For Rebel HQ, I'm Chris Williamson. We'll see you next time.